Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome to today's explainer. If you're a 7th grader stepping into the world of Python programming, you are exactly where you need to be. Today, we are tackling Unit 2, Variables and Data Types, which are really the absolute foundation of all coding. So think about your absolute favorite video game for a second. Have you ever actually wondered how it remembers your player name? Or how it keeps track of your highest score, even after you close it out? That right there is our essential question for today. How do programs actually store and use information? To answer that, here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with how programs remember things, explore variables as storage boxes, and meet the data types. Then we'll mix and convert data, squash some bugs, and wrap up with your next steps. Let's get going. Section 1. How programs remember things. The secret to storing information. Moving right along to Section 2. Variables as storage boxes. Creating and labeling data. Now, what's really interesting about this is, just like you need a brain to remember your locker combination, your code needs a way to remember information while it runs. It can't just magically make it up on the spot. So to understand computer memory, imagine a giant warehouse literally packed with cardboard boxes. A variable is simply one of those boxes. It's a named storage space inside the computer's memory used to hold information or data. When you want Python to remember a high score, you basically grab a box, take a Sharpie, write score right on the side, and drop the number inside. But wait, you can't just scribble anything on the side of that box. There are a few simple rules for labeling or naming your variables. First off, use clear, descriptive names. Call it player_score, not just the letter X. Second, absolutely no spaces allowed. You've got to use underscores if you want to separate words. Third rule, the name must start with a letter. And finally, keep them student-friendly. No naming your variables stinky cheese fart or anything crazy like that. A well-labeled box makes your code so much easier for you and your teacher to read later on. Section 3. Meet the data types. What actually goes inside the box? All right, so we've got our labeled boxes, but here's the thing. Python is actually pretty strict. It needs to know exactly what kind of item you are dropping into each one of those boxes. And this brilliantly illustrates the cast of characters you'll be working with. First up is a string, which is just text and characters, like the word score wrapped in quotes. Next is an integer, which is a whole number, like 100. Then we have a float, which is a decimal number, like 99.9, and lastly, a boolean, which handles true or false logic. Let's zoom in on that float for a second, 99.9. You might be wondering, why do we even need floats when we already have integers? Well, sometimes your code needs precision, real precision. Like if you're building a racing game and need to track a super close race time down to the literal millisecond, or if you're calculating money and have to track the exact cents, a float is the specific tool you need for the job. And then we have booleans, true or false. Basically, think of booleans as simple on and off light switches built right into your code. They are incredibly powerful because they are what helps the program make decisions. Like, does the player have the secret key? True. Did the timer run out? False. Section 4. Mixing and converting data. Playing with boxes. You see, coding isn't just letting boxes gather dust in a warehouse, it's pulling them out and making them interact. But you've got to be careful here. Look at the left side. If you have two integer boxes, 5 plus 5, Python does normal math. The answer is 10. Boom. But on the right side, if you have two string boxes with the text 5 and 5 inside them, Python just squishes that text together. It doesn't do math, it literally sticks a 5 right next to a 5 and gives you 55. Crazy, right? This is a huge, super common misconception when you're first starting out. Let's move to and see how this builds, because this trap leads us right into our next big concept, type conversion. If you get input from a user, say they type the number 5 on their keyboard, Python automatically assumes it's a string. It thinks it's just text. So if you want to do actual math with it, you have to follow these steps. Step 1, get the input. Step 2, convert the type. You literally have to tell Python to turn that string box into an integer box. And then step 3, you can safely do the math. Section 5, squashing bugs. Type errors. Fixing broken code. Okay, let's shift gears for a minute, because no matter how careful you are, your code will eventually break. And you know what? That is completely okay. It's just puzzle solving time. You'll run your code, and suddenly the screen flashes red with this. Type error can only concatenate stir, not int to stir. Ah, It looks terrifying, right? Like Python is just yelling at you in some alien language. But I promise you, hitting this error is a total rite of passage for every single programmer. It is a completely normal roadblock. So let's look at the plain English translation of that scary error message. It just means you can't glue a word and a math number together without converting one first. Remember our boxes? Python is basically just saying, hey, you asked me to add a string text box to an integer math box, and I literally have no idea how to do that. Once you realize that's all it's saying, the bug is incredibly easy to fix. You just use your type conversion skills to make sure the boxes match up. Section 6, wrap up and next steps, your coding journey. Wow, look at how much ground we've covered today. You are literally building the absolute foundation of your Python skills right now. Let's recap. Remember, variables act as labeled storage boxes. Name them clearly. Second, you have to assign the right data type for the job: string, integer, float, or boolean. And third, be super careful when mixing types so you can avoid those nasty type errors. So the crucial point is, knowing your data types is exactly what gives you absolute control over the computer's memory. Which leads us right to our final thought for today. If you were coding your dream app today, what are 3 variables you would need to create right now? Would you need an integer for a score, a string for a username, a boolean to see if the game is over? Start designing those labeled storage boxes in your head right now. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep coding.